Some of the things that came in the box, first of all, came with the weed eater. I'll go over this here in a moment. Came with the weed eater. It comes with some Hedge trimmers, and it's got these little guards that go on here as well. It would be nice if this was just one piece, but it's actually two pieces. Okay. So we got the trimmer. This would be a extension, so you can make an extension pole out of this thing to extend the trimmer set. Okay, so we got the extension. Looks like we have an additional extension pole. For the Hedge trimmer. Okay. We also have a pole saw attachment. We have the weed eater head attachment, and you can put the cutting blades on this particular attachment, but we're going to go over all of this as well. We're getting a bag of tools. We'll go over this here as well. So we're getting a tool bag. We're getting a chainsaw bar. And we're getting a chain. Okay. So we're getting all of this here in the 6-in-1. Also, we're getting a carrying bag. You can actually put all of this stuff into this carrying bag. That's pretty cool. We'll go over that as well. So let's see what all we're getting. We're getting this helmet with a screen, like a helmet screen protector. So when you're weed eating, you can cover your eyes. Okay, we're getting that. We're getting a fuel container. Again, there's the Vevor owner's manual or user manual. We're getting that as well. We're getting a guard that goes over the weed eater or trimmers. We're getting a weed eater head. It's already spooled. It's already got the trimmer line in there. We're getting that as well. We got a handle in the box. And we'll look and see how to set this up. We're getting a handle or handles. We're getting a chainsaw bar cover. Safety glasses. We're getting those. Not sure what this is. We're getting some weed eater trimmer line. So gives you some line for your weed eater. We're getting some blades. Okay, we're getting some cutting blades. This one looks like a circular saw blade, a brush cutter blade, and this one is also a brush cutter blade. So we're getting two blades. We're getting some safety glasses. We're getting a harness that you can go over your shoulder because this thing is kind of heavy. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But you're getting a harness that you can strap on your chest. We're getting some gloves. And we're getting a funnel. Okay. So we're getting all of this with the Vevor 6-in-1 multifunctional trimmer set. Okay. So this is just the regular box that it came in. This box is actually empty. We'll set that out of the way. So just to recap, we're getting a bar cover. We're getting a harness, a shoulder harness. We're getting a funnel. We're getting a cover that covers the weed eater and the blades. We're getting a weed eater head with the line already in there. Tool bag. We got some handles, gloves, ear protection, 2 blades, 2 cutter blades, brush cutter blades. They look different. We'll go over that in a moment. We're getting a safety shield. We're getting this fuel bottle where you can put your oil mix in here, or your fuel and oil mix. Some trimmer line, safety glasses, we're getting a chainsaw blade, chainsaw bar, this is the actual extension that goes on the chainsaw. So to put this in context, I'm just going to measure this and see how long it is. This particular attachment is right at 34 inches, just shy of 3 feet. We're getting the attachment for the weed eater head and the brush cutter blades. The length of this is about the same, 33 inches, almost 3 feet, just shy of 3 feet. We're getting this adjustable trimmer head. And the way this thing works, you're gonna press down these two locking mechanisms, and this thing the head will swivel. Okay, here we go. So this thing here actually swivels when you press down these 2 buttons, these 2 locking mechanisms. We'll go over that here in a moment. Getting a extension pole. The length of this thing is 32 inches, just under 3 feet. We're getting another pole. This here is 30 inches, a little bit over 2 feet. We're getting a carrying bag to carry all of this stuff, which is great. We'll set that to the side. We're getting the user manual. And last but not least, we are getting the weed eater. This is a 52 cc. This thing is kind of big. Some of the complaints that I saw online is that some people said it was heavy. But to operate this thing, we have the gas tank here on the left side. We have a gas tank. The fuel mixture is 40-1, as you can see, 40-1. I normally run a 50-1 in my weed eaters, but it calls for a 40-1. Have a pull start. Here on the back, we have the choke. Down is run, up is choke, okay? Before you choke it, you got a primer bulb right here underneath, or right above the fuel tank, kind of underneath. It's a clear primer bulb. You want to hit that primer bulb several times, choke it, and then pull your start. Here on the top of the weed eater, we have a stop button. Forward is stop. That shuts the engine off. If you're going to crank it, pull it back. Back is run. Forward is stop. Okay. On the bottom, you have a locking trigger. Okay. So in order to press the trigger, you got to press this little mechanism here on the top. So press the top, then you get a chance to squeeze the throttle, okay? It's locked until you press the top mechanism. Here on the front, we have this little pull, looks like a pin, okay? And then we have this little knob to adjust, and we're gonna set this up here in a moment. So I have some gasoline already pre-mixed, okay? I have a pre-mix already set up. It calls for a 40 to 1. I'm going to take off this fuel top. So I'm going to put down some cardboard just so I don't make a mess. And I'm going to gas it up. I'm going to try to do this without spilling any fuel. It calls for a 40 to 1. I normally run a 50 to 1 on my steel products. Alrighty. So next I'm just gonna wipe up any fuel that spilled. So to crank it up, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press this primer bulb underneath here on the bottom. It's a little primer bulb here on the bottom. I'm going to press this probably about just till I feel it kind of get firm. That's about 5 pumps. My bulb is full. I'm going to lift the handle. I'm going to pull the pull cord and see if this thing cranks up. This will be my first start. All right, here we go. I'm going to pull my choke up. I'm going to hold down on the throttle. And let's give it a pull and see what happens. Oh yeah, once you hear the bump, press the choke down and this thing should crank up. Pretty smooth, still real smooth. Now let's look at connecting the attachments that came with the weed eater. So if you look at the weed eater, and I just realized this, you have this little hole here on the bottom, okay? This little handle looking deal has a little male, I'm gonna call it a male insert. You're gonna put that little male insert there in that hole, okay? And if you look at the way this thing is made, the rubber boot is gonna go into that slot like that, okay? It's got a little slot already recessed for the rubber boot. Gonna open it up like that and slide it on the pole. So basically how this thing is gonna work, I'm gonna put the top lines at the top. I'm gonna put it above the hole, turn it and drop it into the slot. Let you guys see how I did that. Okay, got the rubber sleeve and I pushed in the bottom handle into that hole. Okay, now I can put on the top handle. So now next I'm going to take my top handle and sandwich it over that rubber sleeve that came with the kit. So the two larger bolts do not go through the handle, but we have 4 of these 3mm bolts that goes through the handle. On the back side will be the 4 nuts, okay? So we have a total of 4. We got 4 of these little nuts. They're gonna go in the bottom of the handle. And then I have these 3mm long hex bolts that go through the nuts. So inside of the kit, we got these 2 long bolts. We have this chainsaw wrench. We have this little bracket here. We got to figure this out. And we have an open box wrench. It's a 10mm and an 8mm. We got to figure this out. This little piece here goes inside of the handle. It's a Phillip on one side, a flathead on the other. So you can use that as a Phillip or as a flathead, okay? That came in the kit. So the next thing that I'm going to attach looks like it's gonna be this guard here. And this guard already have some little nuts already on the bottom. So these 2 5mm larger bolts that came in the kit is gonna screw through this plastic guard, okay? The nuts are already locked in on the bottom. And we got 2 of those. So basically how this is gonna work, we're gonna take this particular attachment and you can put the weed eater head or the blades on here. And then the guard is gonna go like that, okay? This is how the guard is gonna go. So it's gonna protect that blade and it's also gonna protect that weed eater. So next we're gonna take this bracket that came in the kit and it's gonna go over the guard, okay? I'm gonna take these 2 larger bolts that came with the trimming tool, okay, that came in the kit. We're gonna take those and screw those on the top. They are 5mm. So I guess you can adjust this to the level. So I'm not sure if it goes here. We can always adjust this later. Okay, I'm just gonna bring it all the way down and stop, okay? I'm going to take my 5mm, tighten this thing down. The bolts are already recessed inside of the guard underneath the bottom. So as you can see, I'm tightening this down. This is how that's going to look, okay? So if I was going to attach the weed eater head, we got a bolt here on the bottom that needs to come off. So I'm going to lock this thing into place and then take off this bolt. So this little tool, this chainsaw tool, also fits this bolt here on the bottom. Take off. Okay, it's got a reverse thread. So you're gonna do it in the opposite direction. If you turn it right, that loosens it. If you turn it left, it takes it off. So it has a reverse thread. Keep that in mind. So we're gonna take off this little plate here. have a washer that sits like that. And we have this particular piece. The way you're going to set this thing up, it's going to be different for the weed eater head, and it's going to be different for the cutting blades. So depending on which attachment you're running is going to determine how you put this thing on. So as you can see here, you can see the spline. We have this, what they call backing flange. Okay. We got some little plate. We have the locking flange. And we have a nut, and this nut is reverse threads. So instead of righty-tighty, it's lefty-tighty, okay? Just remember it's got reverse threads. So let's say you're gonna put on the weed eater attachment. You're gonna take off the locking nut, okay, reverse threads. You're gonna take off the locking flange, okay? Gonna remove this little piece here, and then you're gonna see the backing flange. Okay, so if you're gonna run the weed eater, you're gonna put on the backing flange. It drops into place. It kind of locks in, as you can see. It locks into place. Then you're gonna take the weed eater head, screw it on here. Remember, it's reverse threads, and this is how you would run the weed eater. Okay. We'll tighten this down. It's got a little hole here that you can stick like an Allen key in here that kind of locks it into place like that. And then you can turn this thing and tighten it down. Okay, see, that's tight. Then you can pull the Allen wrench out. Okay. This is how you would run the weed eater. If you're going to take the head off, you want to line up the holes, because it's a little hole there. I'll show you here. It's a little hole. Okay. It's a little hole right here on the side. To take that head off, you're going to just stick something in there. You can just stick it in there. Now you want to turn this thing to the right because it's got reverse threads. So turn it to the right. You want to make sure that hole is not moving. Line up the holes, push in, turn this to the right, and then the head comes off. Okay, so when you're running the weed eater, you're not using the locking flange. You're not using this piece, nor the nut, okay? So depending on which attachment you're gonna have on here will determine what you use in the kit, okay? So that's how you hook up the weed eater head. And you can see this thing, how it goes through. See that little hole there? It's got a little hole in that backing flange. So you're gonna put that on, and then you're gonna turn it until the holes line up. Once the hole line up, you're gonna put this Allen key through to hold it in place, and then you can screw down the weed eater head, okay? So I'm gonna show you how to do a trimmer next. I'm gonna take this off, take off the backing flange for now. So if I was gonna attach this thing to the weed eater, basically how it will work, I'm gonna take off this rubber cap, it's a dust cap, just take it off. And you got these little spline teeth inside of this shaft. And you also have a hole here on the side, okay? So you have a little pull pin here on the side. You're gonna line up. You're gonna pull the pin. You're gonna drop it in there. You're gonna feel it lock into place, okay? So now this attachment is attached, okay? So to take off this part of the weed eater, you're gonna pull this pin, which this pin needs to be a little bit bigger. I probably put a bigger ring on here, something I can get my finger through, or I can either put a zip tie on here and pull it, okay? So we're going to, if I was putting this on here, just tighten this down to lock it down into place, okay? To take it off, you're gonna loosen the black bolt. You're gonna pull the pin. Pull this pin, and then wiggle it out. It comes right out. Now, it's probably, this is not in the direction, but it's probably a good idea to put a little bit of oil on here. It'll make it easier to slide down in this shaft. So we're gonna do that just to make it a little bit easier to slide this pole into place. And this is not in the directions, but I'm just gonna take a little bit of, grease that I use for bearings. And I'm gonna put some at the end of this little shaft, because I want this thing to slide in nice and easy. You can use some WD-40 or just use a little bit of grease. I think that's gonna make it easier to slide in, okay? So now, to put in the attachment, I'm gonna take that hole, line it up with the pull pin. I'm gonna pull this pin, make sure my hole lines up. Once it locks into place, then I'm gonna turn that knob. So if I wanted to add the extension attachment, I'm gonna loosen the black knob, pull the pin, slide it out, okay? Next, I'm going to attach the bar to the pole saw. It's coming with the open box wrench. I prefer to use a regular box wrench, but it coming with the tool to take off the side cover. This one here, just regular threads, righty-tighty. Slide up on this cover. Got the little screw. Set that to the side. So looking inside of this thing, this here adjusts the tension of the chain, okay? So to adjust the tension, you're gonna take a flat screwdriver. You can take the little tool that came in the kit, flip it over. To tighten the tension on the chain, you got a little spot here at the front. This is gonna be the tension for the pole saw, okay? We're not gonna mess with that just yet. These are your sprocket for the chainsaw teeth that we're gonna line up. I'll show you that. You got a little grease fitting here on the end, a little Zerk fitting. And here on the bottom, we have a little oiler. That's an oiler. I'm not gonna mess with that yet, but to add more oil, you're gonna turn that screw. I'll look in the book to make sure it's either counterclockwise or clockwise. But that's the oiler. The oiler, that's the chain adjustment here on the top. And those are the sprocket for the chainsaw teeth. Okay, and then we have a spot here for chainsaw oil. So that's pretty neat. So to connect the bar, the way this is gonna work, it sits upright with the top. The bar is basically going to slide into place. And if you can see that little hole on the chainsaw bar, it's gonna drop in on that silver adjustment right on the inside. Okay, it's gonna sit just like that. Okay, right on that little slot there. So we're going to put the chain on. So we're going to take out the chain. Now, when you're looking at the chain, you see these little teeth at the top. You see those teeth? So you want to make sure that the teeth is going in the clockwise rotation, okay? You don't want it looking like this. That's backwards. You want the cutters of the teeth to go forward. So how I like to do it, and the thing about these bars, they can be flipped either upside down. I'm going to show you how this is going to sit. So if you look, this is the front teeth of the chain. Okay, that's the front. If you put it on this away, that's backwards, okay? So I know my teeth is facing forward. My top is at the top. I'm going to sit in my bar. And generally the best way to do this, take your flat screwdriver. I like to tighten my tension all the way in. I just like to tighten it all the way in. Now don't back that thing all the way out, just back it down enough, okay? Just back it down enough. Don't back it off of the screw. Back it down enough. I'm gonna take my bar. I'm gonna put my teeth in the channel. Okay. Look at that, it almost lined up perfectly, okay? But I'm not gonna adjust it until I put the cap back on here. But I just want you to see how I have this set up, okay? So as you can see, that little silver tensioner is inside of the hole. It doesn't matter about the blade. The blade can be flipped on either side, but that little tensioner is going to be down in the hole. I got the chain inside of the sprocket, and I have the teeth going forward. I have the cutters of the teeth going forward. Okay, I'm not going to adjust it until I put the cap back on the side, or the side cover back on. Okay. Okay, so we got the teeth down inside of the sprocket. I'm gonna take my cover, go ahead and snap this down. Okay, next I'm gonna take the little bolt that goes on the cover. I don't want to tighten this down all the way. I'm just going to tighten it down just a little bit. Just kind of snug it just a little bit. Okay. So next, I'm going to go ahead and tighten this tensioner. I'm going to take the little screwdriver. And I'm going to tighten this tensioner. And I want the blade to, and how you know you're doing it correctly, the blade will drop into the slot. That blade is going to drop into the slot. I'm just going to turn this clockwise. You're going to see that blade tighten up. Just make sure it goes inside of the grooves. So this is how it looks. And pretty much what I generally do when I'm tightening my chainsaw blade, I want to leave, I don't want it so, you don't want it real tight. You want it enough to where you can pull up on the chain, but you don't want it real loose. Okay, I'm gonna put a little bit more on there. Tighten it just a little bit more. I want that chain to kind of snap back. Okay, just enough to snap back just a little bit, okay? Now that's tight. Now I can go ahead and adjust this nut on the side using this 10mm open box wrench that came inside of the kit. It's got a locking nut on there. I'm just gonna tighten it down. Nice and snug. And again, we got a little oil adjuster here on the bottom. We're not gonna mess with that yet. The next step, we're gonna top off this thing with some bar oil, okay? You could use some motor oil, but it's highly recommended to use bar oil, chainsaw bar oil. The particular bar oil that I'm using, this stuff comes from Northern Tubes. I generally like to use steel bar oil, but this will work fine. So I'm gonna take the chainsaw and I'm just gonna pour my oil over inside of the reservoir. Again, you can actually use motor oil, but motor oil is kind of thin. It's best to use bar oil, okay? I'll put the cap back onto the reservoir for the bar oil. And this is how you set up the pole saw. Make sure the cap is tight. Again, you got a little grease fitting on the top right there, if you guys can see that grease fitting. Also here in the reservoir, you have a maximum fuel line and a minimum fuel line, okay? And your tensioner here. And once you start using this thing, if it's really, really tight, just loosen the tensioner, spin it a couple of times, and then just tighten down on that adjuster until you see the chain pull in and kind of tighten up. So just wanted to show you this is how you set it up. So if I was gonna put this on the weed eater, it's gonna be just like the weed eater attachment, okay? I'm gonna take the weed eater, okay? And to line up the spline, I'm just gonna drop it in. You're gonna feel it stop. Once it stops, pull the pin, turn until you feel it going, dropping us into position. You're gonna feel it go down. Once you feel it go down, you can let the pin go, and you want to turn this thing until it locks into place. Once it locks into place, you're going to turn that knob. Okay, and this is how you run the pole saw. Okay, this is how you run the pole saw on this Vevor tool. So it's just a matter of getting used to putting on the different attachments. To take it loose, you're going to just loosen the black knob, pull the pin, just kind of wiggle it out. Okay, to put it in, you're gonna drop it until it stops, pull the pin, turn. Once you feel it drop in, let the pin go and turn until it locks into place. Once it locks into place, turn that knob, okay? So what we're gonna do to do the extension, I'm gonna just loosen the black knob, pull the pin, slide it out. We're gonna put on this additional piece with the other knob, okay? Gonna drop it in the same way. Once it stops, pull the pin, rotate it around, let go. Once you feel it lock into position, you can't take it up or down, go ahead and turn the pull knob. Go ahead and turn the black knob, okay? Now that's locked into place. So putting on the extension works the same way as putting on a regular attachment. To take it loose, loosen the knob, pull the pin, slide it out. To put on the extension, drop it into place, turn until it locks, tighten down on the knob. Okay, so this is how you place the extension onto the weed eater to make a longer trimming attachment, okay? So to take it off, I am going to do everything in reverse. Just turn the knob, pull the pin. Pole saw comes right out. So the last attachment that I'm going to attach would be the trimmers. We're going to take the long attachment. It doesn't have anything on the pole. And it also says Hedge trimmer. It's got a little label here on the side that says Hedge trimmer. Okay. So what we're going to do, if you look at this pole, it doesn't tell you which end is which. Okay. But how I can tell the difference is if you look on this end, that hole is bigger and this hole is smaller. Okay. So take the smaller hole and go inside of the weed eater to go inside of this trimmer attachment. Now, it'd be nice if it had an arrow on here to tell you which way it goes, but I'm having to figure this out. Small hole, big hole. Put the small hole into the trimmer. Okay. So as you can see that hole there, you're going to get that hole to line up with that bolt. Okay, line up that hole. Take your 3mm. And the bolt is going to go all the way through. Now, the directions didn't tell me this. I'm having to figure this out. Okay. That bolt is going to go all the way through. Now you can't move the pole. And this is how that's going to look. Okay. The big hole is going to be that goes into the weed eater. Okay. I'm gonna drop it into the spot, pull my pin, drop it in, locks into place, turn the knob. Now we have a hedge trimmer. Okay. So it would be nice if on the hedge trimmer pole, they would have had an arrow to tell you which end goes inside of the trimmer and which end goes toward the actual weed eater, but it doesn't give you that information. I'm having to figure it out. The bigger hole goes toward the weed eater. The smaller end goes toward the trimmer. Okay. And this is how you attach the trimmer. To adjust it, squeeze down on that handle. And now this thing actually, you can do your hedges, you can adjust this thing. And this thing came with 2 different blades, okay? I'm gonna use the circular blade just to show you how this thing goes on. And it's probably a good idea to use some gloves so you don't cut your fingers. I'm just gonna leave this protective plastic on here for now, just to demonstrate how it goes on. Okay. There's a arrow, one going right, one going left. We're going to put it onto the backing flange, just like that. We're going to take the locking flange and go over the blade. And then we're going to take our locking nut counterclockwise, tighten it down. And remember, to tighten this thing down, you got this hole. You got this hole. You want to line up that little hole. You could actually take the smallest Allen key that came in the kit, and you're going to push it all the way through. So when you tighten this thing down, it's going to keep the shaft from turning. Okay. Once you finish tightening it down, then this thing will move. Okay. So line up the holes, push in your tool to lock it in place. Okay. Next, you're going to take the blade, drop it down to the backing flange, Then we're gonna take our locking flange, which is nothing but a big looking washer. It's gonna go flat. And then we're gonna tighten down the blade counterclockwise like this. We're gonna take out two that came in the kit, and we're gonna turn this thing counterclockwise. That tighten it down. Has reverse threads. I can't overemphasize that. Lock this thing down. Okay, once it's locked down, then you can remove your Allen key. And now this thing is ready to go to the weed eater attachment. So if I was gonna attach it to the weed eater, I'm gonna take my weed eater. I'm gonna take my hole, drop it in, pull the pin, turn until it drops into place. Once it drops into place, let the pin go. Verify that it's locked. Once it locks, then I can turn my tension knob, the black knob. And now this thing is ready to go. And now I have a full-fledged brush cutter, okay? This is how this is gonna go, just like this. Full-fledged brush cutter. And I can also add the extension pole if I want to make this thing even longer, okay? And this is how you set this thing up for a brush cutter. So I'm not going to demonstrate in this video how this thing works. I'm going to do another video showing you how to use the different attachments, but I'm not going to do it here in this video. I just want to show you what all came with the weed eater and how to set this thing up, because the directions are vague, and I just want to try to help some of you guys out showing you how to use this. Okay, so let me know what you think. Drop it in the comment section below. If you like this video, hey, click the like button. If you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And again, I'll show you a part 2 video of how I actually demonstrate using these cutting tools. So like and subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys a little bit later out here in the Caliente garage. Thank you.